Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Fazbear Entertainment would like you to put your hands together for the one, the only, Freddy Fazbear.
Rewritten! Even when morning came, Gregory was still holding on to hope that he could eventually get to sleep if he just tried a little harder. A pale rectangle of light had been crawling across the carpeted floor at a snail's pace, marking the sun's progress as it broke free from the horizon. The darkness of his eyelids only protected him for so long, and just as his thoughts began to abstract and fade, his vision was overcome by a red haze. Gregory groaned, rolling out of the beam of sunlight, staring at the wall. It was morning already. Great. After hours of trying, Gregory hadn't even gotten a wink of sleep. He pulled the patchy blanket over his face to prevent any further light from getting in, his arms feeling hollow and shaky even from that tiny movement. The swell of his black eye was bad enough, but the sleep deprivation made his eyes feel like they were going to pop out, his head thudding in tune with his struggling heartbeat, objects sliding on the edges of his vision to reveal shadows that disappeared the moment he did a double take. Yes, his body was completely and utterly exhausted, but his mind just wouldn't turn off. There was a stray fly in his room somewhere, the noise of it sending panic rattling up his spine, making it hard to control his breathing. Every time he shut his eyes, the world slowly seemed to pivot, shifting and melting into the pizzaplex. The smell of rust, the sound of Roxy's advancing paw steps, Chica's weeping, the echoing thumps of DJ crawling through the tunnels. The tiny snippets of nightmares he had slipped into were so visceral and real that he jerked away in a puddle of cold sweat every time he managed to drift off. Gregory just couldn't relax. It felt impossible to ignore it all and lie still, his instincts screaming at him that he was making himself vulnerable, that the danger would be here any second, that he had to get ready to run for Freddy. And he was sick and tired of it. He just wanted to sleep. He didn't even want a good dream. He just wanted no dreams. Nothing but darkness. He didn't want to dream about the pizzaplex. He didn't want to dream about killer animatronics rushing up behind him to bite the back of his neck. He didn't want to see that same scene replay itself over and over again, the scene where he peeked into the box and saw... Movement behind him. A metal clunk. Gregory shot upright, briefly entangled in the covers, blinking the blurriness out of his eyes. His room was bleak and empty as ever. Stains, mildew. Through his blurry eyes, the flaking walls looked like they were breathing, the effect only slightly lessening as he rubbed his face. When he confirmed that the noise was his imagination again, Gregory shoved his head back down onto the bed, trying again to settle his fried nerves. He felt like he was going crazy. He kept thinking he could hear Vanessa, hear the crunch of her broken body, of her shattered limbs moving. Every time he tried to relax, he expected her carcass to burst out of nowhere and finish the job. After all, if it had happened to Afton... He tried not to let his mind wander to those places, but the concept absolutely refused to be ignored. What did they do with her body? He assumed that she would have gone to the morgue like James, but what would happen after? A few interactions in the interviews confirmed to him that Mr. Miller, the guy who apparently owned Fazbear Entertainment, was Vanessa's brother, and since they apparently didn't have their parents anymore, Gregory assumed that Miller would be making the decision of what to do with her. If people were trying to get Gregory's mom to burn what was left of James, they were probably demanding the same from Mr. Miller. Would he burn her just to be safe? Or would he stay stubborn and demand for her to be buried in a traditional funeral? Would there even be a funeral for her? Probably not, Gregory realized. Still, though, her body had to go somewhere. What if she was coming back for him? A breath ruffled his hair. Cold. Ice cold. Gregory nearly knocked himself out from how fast he got up. Still, he found nothing in his room. The edges where the floor met the wall kept drooping in his blurry vision, the ceiling wobbling back and forth like a top, the illusion of motion making him feel like he needed to throw up. A part of him wanted to lie back down and keep trying to sleep, but another part was ready to give up. He would just continue this cycle all day, lying down for 15 minutes, then thinking that he hears something and getting up only to lie back down again. Gregory lowered his head to the squeaky mattress, but he kept his eyes open, his back to the wall, trying to focus on the swimming edges of the closet door. Every time he blinked, he would have to refocus his vision, crusty mucus scraping along his eyelid as he looked back and forth across the stained walls. Nothing. There was nothing, he kept telling himself. No killer animatronics, no walking corpse. At this point, the biggest threat to his safety was his mother. His eyes began to droop. He let them shut. And then something thumped in the closet. Gregory leaped to his feet, the blanket catching around his ankles as he blinked and squinted and tried to tame the sleepy distortion swirling about in his head. He glared at the closet door, which was pressed tightly shut as it always was. He was so sure that he actually heard something this time, his sweat retracing the spot between his nose and eye, his breath pounding faster and faster until he couldn't keep up. Run. In half a second, Gregory was out the door, his thoughts blaring at him to find the closest weapon. Weapon, find a weapon, fight back! He dug into the garbage bag outside of his mom's room, yanking out one of the various empty bottles. Without hesitation, Gregory charged back into his room and flung the closet door open, swinging wildly with all the strength that he could muster. In retrospect, Gregory had no idea what he was hoping to accomplish by doing that. It's not like wielding an empty beer bottle made him dangerous. He was a 10-year-old, for goodness sake. The only thing he could take on is maybe a runty squirrel. But this was more of a knee-jerk reaction, to kill the threat before it kills him. He whacked the bottle back and forth all over the dark closet, hitting nothing but the wall. He kept swinging it around until the bottle finally shattered against the doorframe, sending amber-brown shards in every direction. Gregory backed out of the closet, panting heavily, looking to see if he hit anything. The closet was empty. Just as Gregory leaned in to investigate, a bug as large as his thumb whacked him in the face. For 3 terrifying seconds, Gregory stumbled backwards to try and get away from it, the buzz of its glassy wings sending terror down to his core. He smacked it off of him and watched the thing crawl into the crevice between the baseboard and the peeling paint of the wall. It was a cockroach, a very large one, matching the thunk noise that he had heard before. Gregory was starting to feel a little silly, but he was glad that at least nobody else saw that. Okay, maybe that reaction wasn't necessary, but still, he had been so sure that she had been in there. He shivered uncontrollably, setting down the broken bits of the bottle. Okay. He tried to calm his racing heart, but soon recognized that he was far too pumped up to lie back down. The dryness in his throat, coupled by the rumbling in his stomach, finally made him accept defeat. If he hadn't gotten to sleep before, he definitely wasn't going to now. He pulled himself to his feet again, waiting a few seconds for the world to stop spinning. He grimaced when he pressed his bandaged foot to the carpet. Now that the adrenaline wore off, he could feel the strain that he had just put his injury through, making him feel even more stupid. His bedroom door was still hanging ajar from his rush to find a weapon, and the fact that the racket hadn't woken up his mom could either mean one of 2 things. She was out again, or she was too hungover to hear him. Gregory limped his way to the top of the stairs, pausing and listening to the activity in the house. He would have normally tried to check his mom's room to see if she was there, but the muttering noise from downstairs drew his attention. It was the TV. His mom usually kept all the lights off to save on electricity, so the TV being on was rare. Here at Freddy Fazbear's Pizzaplex, we have... Gregory jumped, listening harder. Did the TV just say something about... Oh, great. Was she watching some of the interviews again? He thought they were done airing those. After a quick trip to the bathroom, Gregory made his way down the stairs, carefully placing a hand against the corner and leaning to look into the living room. Alarm prickled up the backs of his calves as he registered the shape of his mother on the stained sofa. Gregory had a side view of what was going on from his position at the bottom of the stairs. The sofa was placed on his left, facing the TV, which was on his right. He immediately recognized the rows of empty bottles gathered around her feet like bowling pins, as well as the gurgling snores rising from her gaping mouth. She was asleep, he realized with a sigh of relief. His mother was slouched into the armrest of the sofa, one of her arms sticking out at an awkward angle, completely gone to the world. She probably passed out and forgot to turn the TV off. This would be the perfect chance to get some more food without using anything from the stash in his room. Placing each step carefully, Gregory navigated around the squeaky floorboards and used the stool to boost himself up onto the counter, undoing the child's safety lock and reaching in to take a handful of granola bars. He kept one eye on the couch, knowing that if she woke up now, she would see that the locks didn't work on him. His mom stayed motionless under the alien glow of the TV, the narration of the news slithering past Gregory's ears as he got down and took 3 water bottles from the bottom of the pantry. Multiple concerned citizens came to the police reporting. He tore off a few napkins to take with him, planning to get out of here as quick as possible. Given some sort of QR code with the message, Gregory passed by the sofa again, slowing down as he approached the base of the stairs. He eyed his mom carefully, confirming that she wasn't going to wake up anytime soon. But just as he began to retreat to his room, the TV caught his attention again. They never would have been able to guess what the mysterious code would lead to. Though Fazbear Entertainment has tried to take the videos down, hundreds of copies of them have been circulating over the internet in various forms. Wait, that report was not about his interview. Gregory backed up, reaching the ground floor and leaning around the corner. The fizzy light from the TV hurt his tired eyes, but his ears were quick to pick up on what the reporter was saying. Hundreds of people who've enjoyed the Pizzaplex while they were children began to speak out, horrified of what Fazbear Entertainment has been doing to the characters that helped make most of their happy childhood memories. What? Gregory glanced to his mother to confirm that she was still asleep, drawn into a trance as he watched the images flash by. The blue news station logo framed the sight of the people in the news station talking on top of a stereotypical glassy desk. He only got a glimpse of that before it switched to pictures of the Pizzaplex being closed with a crowd of people protesting outside. The fact that they were so desperate for help, that they risked everything just to give us proof of what was going on in there, shows us that they're scared, they're in pain. This is real to them. Those words were spoken by a person in the protesting crowd who had been pulled aside to speak into a microphone that a reporter was holding up for him. Wait. When did this happen? Gregory hadn't heard anything new about the Pizzaplex since he had escaped. During the interviews, they were just making him talk about what already happened to him on the 28th. He had been told that the Pizzaplex was going to open and return to normal soon, but something must have happened. He began to listen carefully, scooping in as many context clues as he could. We do have to warn, for anyone below the age of 18, that the recordings from the QR code hold disturbing imagery. We do not recommend for children to watch this without adult supervision. Tiny flecks of memories fluttered back to him, clues that came to him during these 9 hours of mortal peril. Just little stuff, bits of information that had seemed unessential at the time. Parts and services. There was still something that happened in there that he couldn't recall, but he did clearly remember the heavy clunk that Freddy's collar made as he clipped it off of his neck. Don't worry, they don't shock us while we're around customers. And then the instruction manual to repair them. If the switch is broken and won't turn off, place an order for a paralysis/numbing mechanism replacement. Restrain the animatronic with the designated straps on the chair, use the company-issued earplugs, and perform the rest of the procedure as quickly as possible. Earplugs. Company-issued earplugs. Gregory began to feel ill as the true implication behind those instructions came to light. He hadn't actually taken those observations too far. There was just so much else going on. He had been too busy trying to stay alive. But what if what he saw was just the tip of the iceberg? I had no idea that these characters could scream like that. Another person from the crowd added, being interviewed like the first one. Watching it got so bad I became physically sick while going through the videos. More narration. Before the videos were taken down, a forum online worked together to record and save as much of the content as possible. It took 600 people across the world, but in the end, they managed to gather 671 hours of footage. Another person from the crowd. I mean, just stop and think about that for a second. There were so many clips of these characters being tortured that when we clipped them together, it added up to 671 hours. 671! That is 4 weeks of footage. If you started playing all the videos right now and left it on 24/7, it would take until the beginning of August to finish watching it all. And that's just the stuff that we salvaged. There could be so much more that got taken down before we could get our hands on it. Listen, I don't know about you, but if none of that abuse sounds like a federal crime, then there's something seriously wrong with you. Gregory's legs began to feel weak as he caught up to what was going on. Jeremy Miller, the owner of Fazbear Entertainment, is now under heavy scrutiny for the inhumane conditions that have been revealed to the public. He has given no comment on the developments as of late and has turned down our offers to let him speak to us. The narration kept on going, but their silence has not stopped the flood of protesters outside their doors. Oh my God. That expression just kept on repeating itself in his head like a broken record. Oh my God, oh my God. He had no idea. I mean, he did a little, but not to this extent. 671 hours. The outrage of the crowd began to leak into him, making everything but the TV dim and float farther away. He remembered what Freddy had told him. You need to get out of here and tell an adult. He saw the support of the crowd, his confusion continuing to ripple through his head. They wanted to help Freddy's family. And they weren't kids, they were adults. Adults wanted to help Freddy's family. In fact, there were so many adults willing to help, they risked legal consequences just to share the confidential footage with as many other people as possible to get the rest of the world's attention. The camera lingered on the closed glass doors of the Pizzaplex, sending a chill of goosebumps down Gregory's forearms. What had they been doing to Freddy in there? In fact, not just before this, now. Clearly, the Pizzaplex was shut down for the moment as the company tried to regain their bearings on what to do next. But if there were already 671 hours of electrocution from those horrible callers, it pained Gregory to even begin to imagine what Miller might be doing to the animatronics in retaliation for speaking out. While there are many who sympathize with the animatronic characters, there's just as many that have defended the actions of Fazbear Entertainment. The narrator barreled on, snatching him back to focus. Another person was shown, though it was not one that had been part of the crowd, judging by what he said next. Listen, this entire thing is completely ridiculous. They're robots. I know that their AI is advanced, but they're just built to act like people. And that's what they do. Act like people. I mean, come on. Do you actually think that they feel anything? They're just built to act like they do. What, are we supposed to be advocating for the freedom of our self-driving cars? Are you supposed to stop using toasters because we didn't ask them if they wanted to be toasters? What's next? We need to return all our Roombas so they can go off to a butterfly farm and retire? Fazbear Entertainment made those robots, and frankly, their technology belongs to them, and they can do whatever they want with it. I don't care if I get hate for this. I'm just trying to say that these robots don't actually feel the things that they're pretending to feel. They're not alive. Everyone here is just being childish. Somehow, with every word that he spoke, that stranger got worse. By the end, Gregory was ready to bite off the man's fingertips and make him eat them, but quickly restrained himself from making any sort of outward protest in fear of waking his mom up. This debate has been a heated one online, the narrator explained, which has only raised awareness for the situation and brought the news to even more people. The biggest question that we're all asking is, what next? Many people want Fazbear Entertainment to be dealt with in the same manner that SeaWorld was, as the evidence that they have witnessed has shown an uncanny resemblance to the controversy that erupted after the incident of 2077. SeaWorld, right. Gregory had only just been born in 2077, but the explanation of the incident had been passed on to him much later by the classmates in his kindergarten year. SeaWorld did not go down gracefully. Turns out animals didn't take kindly to being kept in captivity and forced to perform the same tricks every day for their entire miserable lives. But, of course, action like that can only take place if the authorities decide that the robots truly are alive, rather than just AI that has simply been programmed to appear alive. We'll be updating if there are any further developments, but for now, it's time to move on to our regularly scheduled reports. Take it away, Wendy. Gregory stopped paying attention when they started talking about today's weather, hurrying the rest of the way up the stairs and depositing the food in his room. He closed the door carefully behind him, his watery eyes wide and staring at nothing in particular. He sat down on the mattress, becoming lost in thought as he chewed up the granola bars. Okay, something had definitely happened while he was trying to get to sleep. It seemed Freddy and his family had finally given the world a cry for help. All that new information was still trying to cram itself into his brain, but the last thing that the reporter had said stuck with him. But of course, action like that can only take place if the authorities decide whether the robots truly are alive. For Gregory, it was such an obvious answer. Of course they were alive. He had seen firsthand there were no pre-programmed replies, there was no restraint on how deeply their emotions could travel. If they cared for each other, they cried and yelled and got scared just like he did. If they really were only programmed to do certain things, it would have been impossible for them to show any upsetting emotion at all. If they really were just a set of basic protocols with a touch of AI-generated speech, it shouldn't have been even possible for them to sound even a little glum, much less scream and wail like Moon had when Vanessa hit the ground. There would be no reason to program that into them at all if they were just meant to entertain kids. But not every adult in the world knew that. Many adults around town had gone to the Pizzaplex as kids, but they were outnumbered compared to the rest of the world. This was the only Pizzaplex in existence. It was unique. All of the support from outside of this community would be based only on conclusions that people would draw from the small amount of information they were given. And Gregory knew how nasty humanity could be. They would rather find a reason to not feel guilty than actually do something to fix the problem. But after seeing the recordings of what happened on the 28th, why would they ever think that they were just robots? Why would... Wait. The realization hit him like a ton of bricks. Gregory was almost certain that the recordings of the 28th that Mr. Miller gave to the police were altered. If Miller had been torturing the animatronics in there this whole time, he wouldn't have wanted to give the authorities proof that they were actually able to feel emotions. Gregory had nothing more than a gut feeling, but that was often the thing that guided him in the right direction. He had to tell the police. If he was wrong and Miller was more honest than he seemed, then whatever. But he just couldn't take the chance that the world may never see the part of the animatronics that Gregory saw that night. Gregory found himself staring out his window. It had years' worth of pollen staining the glass yellow, but he could still spot the sun peeking out from the gray clouds. Somewhere out there, Freddy and his family were counting on him. Freddy had saved Gregory, now Gregory had to do the same in return. Before he knew it, Gregory dropped everything and yanked the closet door open. He retrieved a pair of shoes that were a bit too big for him, shoving them on over the stitches and bearing through the pinching pain as he hobbled his way down the stairs. Just before he reached the last step, his mother made a noise. Gregory's blood froze in his veins and he stopped, listening intently. It had just been a quiet grunt, possibly a reaction to whatever she was dreaming about. I'm crazy, I've finally gone crazy. he thought to himself as he curled his fingers around the corner and leaned to catch a clearer view of her, the eerie glow of the TV washing over him. His mother's mouth was hanging open, her eyes squished against the armrest, a limp hand dragging against the floor. Another groan. Her brow crinkled, then relaxed. Her knuckles brushed against the floor as she shifted around into a better position. After an agonizing minute of waiting, Gregory crept across the kitchen floor, his hand finding the cold knob of the door. He hesitated, his toes curling in discomfort. She would be mad if he left without telling her. Really mad. But he would do it if it would help Freddy. So, armed with a new determination, Gregory walked right out the front door. If things went well, his mom might never realize that he had left at all. Woo! Okay, so wait a second before you leave. Remember to show your support by commenting about your favorite parts and liking the video and all of that. It helps me, it helps like boost me throughout the algorithm and helps bring this story to new people, and the comment doesn't have to be anything fancy, it's just anything ends up helping me, and I'm super, super grateful for it. Thank you so much for your support. The next episode is going to come out 2 weeks from now at about the same time on Saturday, so look out for that. It's a pretty big one, and we're going to be checking back on the animatronics and what's happened after DJ kicked Jeremy's ass. So, yeah, I think that's all I had to say. Thank you so much for the support so far. Thank you for getting this far into the video. Thank you for liking and commenting and all of that. It really, really helps me, and I'm super grateful for every single one of you. So, bye. I love you guys. See you in 2 weeks. Bye.